My name is Alex Wilson, and I have always been skeptical about anything that challenged logic and reason. My world was defined by concrete facts and rational explanations until that fateful final year at Eastwood Academy. It was when a sinister presence entered my life, casting a shadow over everything I thought I knew. I was looking forward to the last day of school. However, a sense of distress overcame me when I noticed a strange face on the school grounds. His appearance was bizarre, as if a dark mist surrounded him, obscuring his features. I tried to ignore the strange sensation, attributing it to my imagination. But as the days passed, I couldn't take my eyes off that strange being. He seemed to appear out of thin air in various locations around the school, in the courtyard, the hallways, and even in the quiet library. I dubbed the enigmatic figure the Dark Observer because he seemed to constantly observe me, his eyes shining in the shadows. The Observer was like a dark blot in my peripheral vision, always present yet elusive. I often found myself staring at the spot where he had appeared, only to meet his gaze directly, his eyes like two bright points in the darkness. I began to feel paranoid, constantly wondering if he was following me or if it was just my imagination. My cousin Ashley noticed my agitated behavior and asked me if something was wrong. I hesitated to share my fears, fearing I would sound ridiculous. After all, how could I explain something so illogical and inexplicable? As the last day of school approached, I felt increasingly isolated, caught in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. The Dark Observer seemed omnipresent, his silent existence a constant reminder that something sinister was stalking me. One afternoon, while studying in the library, I felt a presence right behind me. I turned quickly and came face to face with the Observer, standing just a few steps away. Our eyes locked, and I felt a chill run through my body, paralyzing me completely. His eyes, intense and penetrating, seemed to see right through me, probing my deepest fears. The last day of school finally arrived, and joy filled the school corridors. But for me, it was as if a dense, dark cloud hung over my head. The Dark Observer seemed to be ever present, his presence more intense than ever. When the bell rang, signaling the end of classes, I went to the bathroom, and out of nowhere, the Observer appeared inside, his dark form blending with the approaching night. "You thought you could escape me, Alex?" His voice whispered like the wind through the trees. "But I am the personification of your deepest fears. I have been watching you, waiting for the right moment. You are mine now." His words struck me like a blow, and I recoiled, my body almost paralyzed with fear. The Dark Observer was not just a figment of my imagination, he was a supernatural entity, a manifestation of my anxieties and darkest fears. I ran through the school, my footsteps echoing in the empty corridors. I needed to escape the oppressive presence of the Observer. My eyes desperately sought help, but everyone had left, leaving me alone with that unknown entity. I found refuge in the daylight outside the school. The days turned into weeks, and the Dark Observer did not appear again. However, the memory of his eyes shining in the shadows remained etched in my memory. I became cautious, constantly looking over my shoulder, expecting him to reappear. Life went on, but I was never the same. My friends and family noticed my changed behavior, my constant state of fear. I tried to explain, but how do you explain something that defies logic and human comprehension? The truth is, I had encountered the true face of terror in the form of the Dark Observer, a supernatural entity that transcended my understanding. And although I escaped that time, I still wonder if he is out there in the shadows, patiently waiting for the next opportunity to reveal himself. It was a Friday morning. Emma was excited to finally finish the school year, but there was also a sense of melancholy in the air as we walked through the school hallways for the last time as high school students. The entire school was buzzing with anticipation for summer, and the atmosphere was electric. As I chatted with my friends in the courtyard, my attention was drawn by a strange movement in the corner of my eye. I caught sight of an enigmatic figure wearing a peculiar mask. It was like a distorted face with mischievous eyes and a sinister smile. My heart almost stopped, but I brushed it off, attributing it to my overactive imagination. However, as the day progressed, the sightings continued. At one moment, I would glimpse the figure in the hallway, disappearing into an empty classroom. In another, his hooded form would be seated on a bench in the courtyard, watching from a distance. The mask, with its bizarre features, intrigued and unnerved me. In biology class, I struggled to concentrate as the image of the mask kept invading my thoughts. Then a folded note was slipped into my desk. With a sense of apprehension, I opened it. The handwriting was irregular, almost childlike, and it read, "We're watching you." A shock spread through my body. I looked around, searching for the sender, but no one seemed to be paying attention to me. Later at lunch, another note appeared on my plate. "You can't escape," it said. the handwriting now a bit more urgent. My stomach clenched as I realized this could be related to the masked figures. I scanned the room, my eyes finally landing on a familiar face, Jake, a quiet and reserved student from my class. Our eyes met briefly, and I saw a glint in his eyes that caught my attention before he looked away. The school began to feel like a sinister maze, with each corner potentially hiding another frightening apparition. The mask, with its menacing eyes, seemed to pursue me, even though I knew it was absurd. I found myself constantly looking over my shoulder, feeling a constant presence in my shadow. The library, with its narrow corridors and stacks of books, became a place of fear. I could imagine the masked figures lurking between the shelves, leaving their threatening notes. The silence of the room was suffocating, and I felt watched with every step I took. Determined to get to the bottom of this, I decided to confront Jake about the strange occurrences. I waited for him after class, my heart pounding. When he finally appeared, I hesitated, but then, with a fearful voice, I asked directly, "Why are you and your friends following me?" His face seemed to go through a range of emotion: surprise, hesitation, and finally, resignation. He sighed and invited me to a more private place, away from the crowded hallways. It was there that he revealed the truth behind the masks. "It was supposed to be just a prank," he explained, his tone filled with regret. "Mariana, Raphael, and we wanted to create some sort of urban legend to make people curious and a little scared. We didn't expect you to take it so seriously." My world came crashing down as the reality behind the sinister apparitions was revealed. Mariana and Raphael, the reserved boy, were also in on it. They had planned everything, from the bizarre masks to the threatening notes, specifically targeting me because of my fearful and analytical nature. I felt betrayed and confused, struggling to process the truth. The school, which had once felt like a familiar place, now seemed like a strange setting, as if the very walls were conspiring against me. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions. I felt vulnerable and exposed, questioning the motivation behind my classmates' actions. The line between prank and cruelty had been crossed, and the sense of paranoia persisted long after the masks had disappeared. School eventually ended, and summer began. But the memory of those bizarre eyes watching me from the shadows remained. The experience left me with a sense of fear wherever I went, a consciousness of how easily reality can be distorted and how trust can be shaken. Even knowing it was my classmates playing this prank on me, the story spread, and soon other students started talking about the masks of terror, turning the incident into an urban legend. But for me, it wasn't just a story, it was a disturbing reminder of the fragility of perception and how easily we can be manipulated. I clearly remember the last day of school at Borley High School. My name is Mary, and I was hesitant to take part in the prank that Luke had proposed. The school itself was impressive, with its old bricks and framed windows, but my focus was on the abandoned room we were about to break into. "Come on, Mary," Luke encouraged me. "I found this old Ouija board. It'll be fun to ask him questions about the future." I knew the dark stories associated with such boards, so I expressed my concerns. "Are you sure? I've heard these things can be dangerous." However, my warning was ignored as the curiosity of the other students, including Brown, an outgoing boy always up for adventure, was too strong. We entered the abandoned room and a strange feeling settled over me. The room was dim, with peeling walls and a deteriorated piano in the corner. Yellowed sheet music gave a hint of the room's history. We formed a circle, placing the board in the center, and rested our fingers lightly on the planchette. The daylight, filtering through the foggy windows, created odd patterns on our hands. Luke explained the rules to those unfamiliar with the Ouija board. "We'll ask questions, and a spirit will communicate by moving the planchette." At first, the questions were light and playful, eliciting nervous giggles, but as we continued, the answers became more personal and intriguing. "Who among us will face a dark fate next year?" Brown asked, his playful tone quickly fading. My heart skipped a beat as the planchette moved to "Yes." We exchanged nervous glances, feeling a chilly shiver down our spines. Suddenly, a scream filled the room, making us all jump in fright. It was a sharp, terrifying sound, as if someone was right next to us. "Oh God, what was that?" I whispered, my voice trembling. Before anyone could respond, a chair fell with a loud crash, as if kicked by an invisible force. My heart was pounding as silence fell upon us. Mia, a quiet and mysterious girl, spoke softly. "I think we disturbed something we shouldn't have. We might be in real danger. But before we could consider a retreat, the planchette on the board started moving on its own, spelling out a message that left us rigid with fear. "You are in danger." We ran out of the room, our faces reflecting the pure terror we felt. The fun had vanished, replaced by palpable fear. Running through the school corridors, I noticed the surroundings seemed darker and more menacing than ever before. Breathless, we gathered in the courtyard, trying to process what we had just experienced. "What the hell just happened in there?" Brown asked, his tone serious and concerned. I was still visibly shaken, struggling to find answers. What if there really was something in that room? What if we are in danger? Mia, with her mysterious eyes, addressed the group. "I believe we awakened something that should not have been disturbed. Borley High School has a dark history, and now we're a part of it." Each of us carried the weight of what had transpired in that room. I couldn't get the disturbing answers, and the scream that still echoed in my thoughts out of my head. Luke, despite his adventurous nature, seemed to question his actions. What if we truly made contact with something from another world? Are we really alone? Doubt and fear settled in, replacing the anticipation for summer break we had felt before. As the sun set, marking the end of the last day of school, we parted ways, each of us grappling with our own demons. The shared experience in the abandoned room had created a disturbing bond among us. The story of the last day of school at Borley High School would become a scary recollection, whispered around campfires during summer break, a reminder that the unknown can be terrifying and that some things are better left untouched. If you enjoyed the video you just watched, you won't want to miss this next one. Click now and I'll see you there.